Hi guys and welcome to Whiskey Geek. I'm Ben and today I'm going to be kicking off my peaty Islay whiskey reviews by finishing off these two. Now I've chosen to group these two whiskies together for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I'm about to finish both the bottles, they're almost empty. Secondly, they're about the same budget. And thirdly, because I feel that they are of a similar theme. They're two different distilleries trying to do a similar thing, and that leads to similar kind of complaints, similar gripes with them. But we'll get onto that later. Two bottles down. Guarantee you if I try and leave them like this, I'll end up knocking them over and breaking something. Now I bought both of these at the same time for about the same price. I think it was £28, £26. They were both on offer and I was pretty happy to give them both a try. Now admittedly, when I first opened both of them, I was pretty disappointed. But I stuck with them, and as I got down to about a third of the way on each of them, they kind of began to open up and disperse, and really the whiskey came into its own a little bit. I did sit and do tasting notes for each of them a number of times, and they were, particularly over the last 2/3 of the bottle, they were fairly consistent. The first third was a bit muted, but it had the same themes. But as these bottles have sat fairly empty for a little while, I'm not going to draw too heavily on the whiskey that is in the glass today. Instead, I'm going to go off of the most concise notes that I had from the last time I tasted them, the most complete notes. So starting with the Bowmore No1, this has been matured in first fill bourbon casks. It's a no age statement, 40%. And this whiskey has been named after the No1 Vault maturation warehouse. The colour is a fairly crisp gold. I've put it down as a shade 05 white burgundy. On the nose it's fairly cereally, there's kind of whole grain and seeded bread. And then quite a briny, sea salty tone starts to develop. There's a whiff of smoke in there and overall it's quite light. There's a minerally tone, a touch solventy. Then onto the palate. There's a sweetness to the palate, kind of vanilla, caramel. There's still a coastal tone, it's kind of turning the caramel like a salted caramel. Some underlying peaty smoke, and a lot of that grain is coming back. It's quite a cereally whiskey. It then progresses onto the finish with that ocean spray. A minerally tone kind of lingers, and there's a hint of smoke still in there. So for me, the Bowmore No1 is quite a soft and easygoing Islay whiskey. It's like it's hinting at the character and the depths of Islay without really having any of the clout. And there is that somewhat young, a little bit rough, cereally, grainy tone running throughout the whole of the whiskey. This is absolutely not a bad whiskey. I just feel like it's Bowmore trying to come up with an entry level, an introductory whiskey, and it's not aimed at people who've already fallen in love with Islay or already have a taste for Bowmore. It's aimed at the masses, it's aimed at people who haven't yet learned to love or become accustomed to the bold Islay character. Next up is Laphroaig Select. Now this is a whiskey made from a selection of whiskies that would otherwise go into their other core range, with the addition of some virgin oak matured whiskey. Again, another no age statement, bold of 40%. The colour is very similar to the Bowmore, shade 05 white burgundy. The nose is full of those typical Laphroaig medicinal tones. Iodine, sterile. It's got a rounded peaty profile, quite meaty, honeyed ham, smoked ham. There's a sweet citrus and some barley notes hiding in the background. Moving on to the palate. Again, it's quite a soft peat, that iodine tone is still there. There's quite a subtle lemongrass and green apples hiding in the background. And those spices are starting to accumulate quite nicely. It's kind of a musty wood tone as well. Then onto the finish, it kind of mellows out and becomes quite simple. It's a smooth lingering smoke, medium length, and it's quite pleasant. Pleasant but tame. Again, for me, this is kind of a whiskey that's been a little bit compromised. It's certainly a Laphroaig, but it's been turned down. It has all of the essence of a Laphroaig without the girth, without the clout that normally comes with them. And this is kind of where my gripe lies. Laphroaig have always marketed themselves as dividing opinion since 1815. You know, this is the Marmite of the whiskey world. You either love it or you hate it. And what they've done here is compromise that. They've kind of made a whiskey which is supposed to be accessible, is supposed to be easy to drink. Which is a shame, because Laphroaig to me is a very in your face, it's got a lot of clout, and it's just honest and says, this is what I am, you'll either love me or you won't. So I gave this Bowmore No1 a 55 out of 100 and this Laphroaig Select a 65 out of 100. Neither of them are by any means a bad whiskey, they're just not what you come to expect from these distilleries. They are toned down, compromised. If you've not yet learned to love Islay, if you've not tried a Bowmore, tried a Laphroaig, then I think you're the intended market for these whiskies. They're supposed to be toned down, easy, accessible, let you explore the character without biting your head off. So if you're interested in a coastal, briny Bowmore, then this is not a bad place to start. If you're interested in the medicinal peaty Laphroaig, then again, this is not a bad place to start. But if you already have an expectation of what makes a Bowmore Bowmore and what makes a Laphroaig Laphroaig, then these aren't the whiskies for you. They will just disappoint. But given that the 12-year-old and the 10-year-old core expressions aren't that much more expensive, you shouldn't feel like you're missing out. So in summary, they aren't amazing, but they aren't bad, and they're probably not intended for you. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, chuck a like below and a comment, and consider subscribing for more whiskey reviews. Cheers!